Can't stand
I know it's inconvenient for you.
It's tough. Speaking of, I gotta take my socks off because I get hot during the show.
All right, let's go. Should we say on air why Casey's out?
No, I would. We could just say he was a late. No, it's not appropriate.
We're all family here, John. Hello, everybody, and welcome into another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing When Evil Lurks. We got a real feel-good picture for holiday times here, John. Joining me tonight, first up from the Bay Area of California, please welcome Matilda to the show.
Hey, nice
That's
to
where
see
you're
you
at,
both.
right? Oakland?
I'm in Oakland, yeah.
Love it.
Not one of
Is
those
that
other
still-
noted Bay areas.
Does
That's
that
right.
still count as the Bay Area?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Eric,
Oh, good.
we're
I
gonna
know,
get him a
John.
map one of these days.
The hell do I know?
Some labels.
Next up from Manhattan, New York City. He's being real judgy tonight already. So I'm pretty excited. Please welcome John Schnars to the show.
You know, when Eric has good things going in his life, that's when I come. That's when I come in hot.
You
That's
got to
when I
take
like
me
to-
down a couple pegs. I
Yeah,
get
I
it.
like to make sure.
Makes sense.
Exactly. So
You did just on the live stream take your socks off on air before we started here. You want to talk about that?
I mean, I wasn't trying to be so obvious about it, but look, I run hot. Got my feet under the desk. It's very warm. Gotta get the socks off, you know.
It's true, you're hot.
No Casey tonight, we should mention.
Mm-hmm.
Last minute cancel due to, let's see, he's having a personal situation.
He
but
figured
he's
it's a
gonna be
movie.
okay.
It's a movie with subtitles. I got it covered. So, yeah,
Well, he did send his review, which we can give at the end.
he did. Well, let's do it. Let's take a quick break and review When Evil Lurks.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time. Main feature.
When Evil Lurks or Where Evil Lurks?
When? It's a time. It's the time of evil.
Gotcha.
lurking.
Cool. I have no segue, John. So please
Great.
bring us the word of the day.
Well,
I don't normally prepare for the segue, John. It just comes to me. I didn't have anything at that time. That's how
you
improv
do it
works.
live. Today's word, Eric, is putrescent.
Ooh.
That is Putrescent, putrescent.
Why do I know that word?
Well, you know the word putrid.
No, David Bowie
Uh-huh.
in The Labyrinth, I believe, uses the
I
word
think it's just called
putrescence.
labyrinth, but sure.
Did I say The Labyrinth? Yeah,
You did.
just Labyrinth.
Nah, I'm just here to correct you. Putrescent, undergoing the process of decay, rotting.
Gross.
Yeah. Putrescent comes to us from the Latin putrere, which means to rot. Early
Love it.
17th century is where we
Well,
get putrescent.
tell me about the movie, John, and what the word has to do with it.
Yeah. So I did a tiny bit of research. So I will not pretend to sort of know everything that's going on here. But When Evil Lurks, this is an Argentine film. It was produced by Shudder, which is interesting, right? Like this isn't like a film that they acquired after it was done. Shudder. So apparently the underlying screenplay here won or was like sort of, well regarded in a screenplay competition in like 2020, 2021. Shudder gets involved, produces it along with a couple of production shops down in Argentina. This is directed by a gentleman named Demian Rugna. That's what I'm going with. Rugna you may remember from the only other Argentine horror film that we covered on this here podcast, Terrified. Do you remember Terrified? Matilda, have you seen Terrified? I'm getting.
I have not.
You're
I'm
both
coming
giving
in
me
cold.
blanks. Wow.
No,
Sorry,
I
I'm
did
coming in
because I'm the
cold
only
for this
person.
guy.
Who,
Yeah.
I'm the only person who didn't like that movie. So
Oh, okay. Well, interesting. So Terrified was like another sort of. I think we probably saw it on Shudder, but it was like one of the early days of Shudder kind of thing. I think it was 2017, if I remember the date on it. But so yeah, I mean, he directed that movie. He directed one of the segments of Satanic Hispanics, which apparently is an anthology film. I did not know that.
It's supposed to be great.
And yeah. I mean, it's been on our list to potentially get to this year. But so that's the background here. This is the story of two brothers, Pedro and Jaime. They live in a fairly rural part of Argentina. They're like sort of farmers. I mean, there's like, frankly, like pretty complicated backstories to both of these characters, which is like somewhat important narratively, but ultimately not super duper important to the general outline here. They sort of hike next door because they hear that there's like something weird going on with the house next door, or there were gunshots at night. They hear these gunshots. They're hiking. They like sort of hike over. It's like a they take a day basically to go see the neighbors. They get over there. And the neighbors are basically like a fairly, let's say, like low income shack type of situation. I'm trying to be like polite, but
Were you about to call them shack people?
no, I wasn't. No, they're sort of like tenant farmer was sort of the sense that I got.
I love how uncomfortable you are with this
Well,
particular plot point.
Look, there is definitely some like class stuff going on in this film, and this is like the first part of it. So you've got this like very poor family. It's like a mother and two sons living in a house. They get there. On the way there, they find a dead body that's been like torn apart, basically, and like these weird instruments that they can't identify. They get to the house. When they get there, they find that one of the sons, I guess the older son, his name is Uriel. Uriel is, I mean, I'm just going to say putrescent, and maybe we leave it at that. But they immediately start sort of freaking out because they think he is possessed. Like they're treating him as if he's a possessed person. He is like, not, obese isn't even the right word. He's like bloated, comically so. It's almost like something out of Slither, like the movie Slither.
An interesting note about just the way they do it is like, it's not a universe where people have to come around to the idea that somebody might be possessed. They're immediately like,
Right.
there's something happening that they're aware of. This
Yeah.
might be related to.
It's like there is a lore or a sort of like mythos going on in this world, and everybody is on board with it. There's this idea that they start calling him the Rotten or Rotten, and they also are referring to the fact that he's possessed, and that basically there's like a demon living inside him that is trying to get out. And so then there's like all these rules about like you can't shoot the demon, because if you shoot the demon, that can like pass the possession on to other people. But somehow like it can also infect other people. Like some of the demons attack people. And so them finding this guy is sort of like the first step of like an outbreak that's going on. But it starts in this very rural area. They go find the like sort of neighboring farmer whose land this shack is on. And he's freaking out. He's like, this is killing the animals. Like, it's like ruining my land. I got to get this guy out of here. So they load this putrescent Uriel into the back of a truck. They drive him 300 kilometers away. They get to where they're just going to like drop his body in the middle of nowhere. And they realize he's not even in the back of the truck anymore. And so then they're like,
he
fuck.
fell out when you swerved back there. And it's like, don't you think you would have seen him?
Well, and also I don't know if you guys caught it, but they show that like there's like a handprint or there's like smears on the side of the truck that looks like he very clearly climbed out effectively. And so
this
then they're
movie
like
also, had he fallen out, like this movie would have indulged in a pop. I feel
there would there would have been a noise.
That's what I was expecting. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So they they go home. They're like, "Fuck it!" Like we tried to get this guy away from our house. Like we think we did. We're not sure where he is, but we're just gonna like let it go and hope everything's okay. One of the two brothers, I can't remember which. I think Pedro actually. He starts to get super anxious. I think he might have like a dream or something. But he's basically like the next day, he's gonna go back into like the main part of town, more like a suburb, collect his kids and like truly run, like get like as far away as possible because he's just like this whole place is fucked now and like we got to get out of here.
He's got a great beard, by the way. Just want that reflected.
Oh yeah,
for the record.
he's totally. I mean, it's there's a look
It's a
of
little
rule to him.
It's a little unkempt,
Yeah,
but sometimes that works.
yeah. He's generally unkempt in his, personage. I would say.
Yeah.
But so that kind of tees up the rest of the action of the film. They go back into this town. He's trying to collect his kids. Like truly crazy shit starts to happen.
I'm sorry. I have to. I have to surface this comment that Joe just left on YouTube. I'm gonna pop back in 30 minutes when Schnorrs is done.
God,
with this.
this is why we can't have live comments. I'm sorry, Joe.
No, this is why we need them.
Yeah, so that's it. Like basically, like crazy shit just starts to happen at that point, and I don't know. We can pick it up from there. I don't want to upset Joe anymore.
Now.
Okay, so I'm done. I'm done.
Love it. Thank you, Joe. Needed that tonight. Matilda, what'd you think of this?
I really liked this movie in terms of the kind of like interesting mix of possession and folk horror that I feel like it's getting at. And I have seen some things, but this one messed me up, honestly. Like this, I have not been this stressed out in a movie since seeing Beau is Afraid in the theater. Like there's
Don't
just
get
a
Eric started on
panicked
Beau is Afraid, please. It's too early in the
tone.
Great movie.
There's just a panic that I could not get out of my body during some of the scenes with a lot of action that, this one is deeply unsettling. And it's my first go at this with this director, so I'm now curious to go back. But also, I knew I would be recording with you all today, and I kept wondering, like, what is this movie like to watch as a parent? Because I'm like a childless person. This movie, unlike an American movie, it pulls no punches with kids and animals.
Yeah, honestly, it's the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Really wet.
None of
really
that
wet.
soft American filmmaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sure doesn't pull punches. Sorry, but anything else? I don't want to cut you off, but
No, I'm curious to hear what you all thought.
What about you, John?
I think I was telling Matilda before the show, and Eric knows this, but I started watching this Sunday night after I returned from Thanksgiving. I got through the first like 25 minutes. I mean, there's a very specific scene that involves a child and an animal that I got to, and I was just like, can't do this. Not doing
deeper
it.
than 25 in. I feel like that's like 40 in.
Yeah, wherever it was, I was just like legit. I had to. It wasn't like I had to turn it off and I'm not watching this. I was just like, I'm not in a brain space. I'm coming back off like a nice 4-day weekend. I am not trying to have this in my life right now. It is it's so intense, and it is so aggressive in some of the like violence and sort of, the horror, right? Like it's because we should talk specifically about. I really want to talk specifically about that scene when we can get into it, because like it's done really effectively, and as it's happening, you're just like, oh my God, I knew it was happening. I almost turned it off before, and then I didn't, and then I was very upset. But in any event, I did finish watching this a day later. It's really good. I mean, like I was a little surprised when I was reading that Shudder was involved in producing, because like my one comment here is I found the some of the subtitles like confusing at times. Like I almost felt like they weren't 100% well translated, and that's weird because like the movie's made in Spanish. I mean, it's made in Argentina. but like for an American company, I mean, Shudder's a
Do you have an
global company, I
example?
guess. Well, at first it was very confusing because they are using terms like possessed and the rotten. Like they're using some of these terms in ways that are, they make sense in the context of the world. I mean, we were talking a little bit about how they're like they have this mythos that they're sort of dropping you into. So some of that was like a little confusing, but then I don't know. Like there was just moments where like some of the way the English played, like I don't know. I was like finding it a little disorienting. But maybe the movie was just disorienting me. Like I don't know, Matilda, if you got any of that, or if maybe I was just like,
Yeah, I mean, it's
not
hard to tell
uncommon.
because I was coming out of my body at points in this movie. And so
yeah.
if I could get lost in a subtitle question, I was definitely trying to do that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sort of helped me that you and Casey John were like, whoa, this, like, you guys primed me for something disturbing. So I was kind of like, I was well girded going into it.
Sure.
You do know, John, I sometimes struggle with subtitled movies because it's just hard.
Yeah.
I start
I know.
reading and then I want to take a nap and like, I don't know. And it's not bad, this movie. I would say there's 20 minutes of this thing that I loved. And it's from the axe scene in the field with the goat and all that craziness. And then there's a good like 20-minute stretch of just complete chaos. It's like a smaller version of the opening of the Dawn of the Dead remake from like 2009 or 7 or whatever that was, where it has just been, it's like a Rube Goldberg machine of people getting murdered. Just like people crossing paths and getting possessed and crazy shit happening. It's awesome. It's great. The rest of this movie, I will forget tomorrow. Like, because when you get away from those parts that are just bananas, so I think it really works where it's like, we're joking about these scenes with the kids, but like, where it's working is where it's pushing boundaries, because that's where it feels interesting and noteworthy. You're like, okay, all right. But like, you strip that stuff away, and a lot of the movie is fairly, to me, like, although obviously there's regionalism there, which gives it an interesting shade to it. But like, it's largely religious horror, which is not really my thing.
Can I interject and just say, like, I actually think the world that they are building here is like pretty rich and different than I don't like. You're saying religious horror. I think Matilda called it folk horror earlier. Like there's a moment in this movie where they talk about how there's no churches left anymore because like, so it's actually like a-religious or like almost like anti-religious at a certain, like the world that they've built. I don't want to say that the world is it's not sci-fi because like it's like today's world, but
that part annoyed me. Like,
but so like I think there are political and or sort of as a regional. There's like things going on in this movie that are probably going a little over our heads. I mean, Argentina is like a real fucked up place, like right now. So so
well, and that's another problem that I sometimes have. Yeah, with like connecting with movies like this is not having the sort of knowledge to put together the context clues of the world. I think that the lead actor is really good. There is kind of a crazy amount of like story happening there that just kind of gets thrown at you in bits. If there is any part of this movie that has some emotional tug to it, it's his storyline. Although it's really sort of like you got to piece it. It takes you a while to piece it together. They don't kind of like spell it out for you at first. You don't really get what his deal is. But that whole scene's great where he barges into their house. Because he
takes his clothes off.
Now, maybe I missed this, but he's like, oh, I'm going to get my kids. I don't think let me put it this way. I didn't know at that point, like, oh, he's estranged from his kids until he shows up to the house. And they're like, what the hell? You're not supposed to be here. There's like a restraining order.
Restraining order.
And that's in the middle of that whole bananas section there of the movie.
Well, and he's literally taking his clothes off because he's worried that he got like, putrid juice on him, like rotten juice on him, which he did. It turns out.
Almost like
which he did.
Like,
yeah.
Could you make an argument that there's nothing religious here at all, and that it's actually sort of how they're culturally, how they're accepting a thing that's actually maybe scientific.
No, I think, well, science. I mean,
You know what I mean?
the point of the film, in some ways, is that like this society has like putrefied itself, right? And so like now you have
Deep, John.
there's one sentence that so there's a character who comes in later who is the brother Jamie's older mistress. Like there was like some relationship there. It's not
Sure, maybe.
Yes, potentially. And she is now one of these hunters who cleans up and like hunts the rotten to like try to like keep these things out of the world. And she makes this reference to having lived in the city, because they live obviously even the quote unquote like city that they're referencing is like I said, a suburb. But she references living in the city, and she's like, "Oh, the rotten are everywhere there." Like it's just like she said something along the lines of like there. And so that was
gotcha.
my understanding, is like
Oh, okay.
the point of the movie is a little bit like civilization has now rotted, and like this is a physical manifestation that's happening, and it's now spreading all the way to, these more far-flung parts of the country.
Right, and what happens
Yeah,
if there's
so-
a
and it's like I
possession
never-
movie and you can't find a priest?
It felt
Well,
that part of it felt preachy to me. Although not, it's like sometimes I think like a film like this back in the day when I was younger, I wouldn't have made that connection, but it's harder for me now not to, I guess.
Well, how do you mean?
Like preachy about society, like religion's role in society.
Yeah, I mean, it's not heavy-handed. At least I didn't think it was super heavy-handed. I mean, it's funny. You get this scene like we were talking about right in the very beginning, where they find all these like tools, and they're basically the like exorcism tools.
Yeah.
But it's like a sextant. That's what I thought. I mean, that's what it looked like to a certain extent.
Can you say that again, John? But slower.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Eric, I think your point about this like 20-minute segment is 100%
great.
true. It made me also think. I think we were talking about this movie recently, but The Signal. Like, there's a lot of these possession zombie type movies where you have that moment of, oh, it's like
Chaos.
really kicking off,
And you can't sustain it
mayhem.
for a whole movie.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
do get that. There, I would say it comes back around like 10 minutes. There's like a 10-minute chunk in the finale that's similar energy,
Yeah.
and then it goes on too long to me. To me, they leave the best ending on the table, which is the bloody. Is that the demon?
It's the demon. It's the
Okay,
demon being
like
born.
that
yeah.
with all the kids walking off in the distance, and he's just like devastated. Why would you not? I feel like they don't end the movie there because they want another. They got greedy, John, because what they wanted is that other moment where he realizes that his kid has eaten the family.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what they wanted. Like, oh, we're gonna get this in, but like it's so flat after that scene where it should have ended to me.
I
agree
tend to
with that.
agree. Yeah, it's I like so the part of this movie that gets the slowest is like the transition from the second act to the third act.
Yeah.
In my mind, like there's this moment where they have
And you're
to
coming
figure,
off all that chaos when it happens.
exactly, and they have to, like, they're in the car, and then they get to the house with the sort of teacher slash lover of the brother slash she's now the hunter, and they reveal it was actually like her partner who was the person who was killed in the
Right.
beginning of the movie, but there's a lot of like exposition going on there that it does kind of like sap some of the energy. And I think I mean, Eric, you said functionally the core of this movie is this guy, this dad, and I think they wanted to end with him, and specifically end with him and the relationship to the only remaining kid at that point, which is the other kind of wild thing that goes on in this movie, which is like you have a substantial character who is autistic, and not like, autistic and like a character. He's like, does not speak. It's
How
like,
did we feel about how they dealt with that when they were talking about like the demon? And I was like, all right.
it was, I don't know. I mean, it was like, it's an interesting idea at some level.
They're like, when demons possess autistic people, what did she say? It was like, they don't know what to do with their brains, so they get stuck in limbo. And I'm like,
Well, it gets like trapped.
Yeah,
in
they have to
them because-
unlock the puzzle of the brain. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Well, so this is one of the other moments, like or not moments, but like the demons here, like can talk and basically trick you through talking. That's like one of the things they do. But so I think like the fact that the autistic character doesn't speak is why the demon was sort of locked in there. That was my takeaway on it, but I don't know. I mean,
Right.
whether or not that
And it's
like,
so
makes any sense.
unsettling.
It's very unsettling. Well, I was also curious. Like, I assumed that actor was not an autistic actor. Like, they just because they're doing something weird with his eyes that was like a little kind of like
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm curious about
If
this too.
Dusty-
Yeah.
If Dusty is listening right now, I really need a gif of the goat pushing his head up against the gun because that made me laugh out loud in the best way. I have not figured out, John, the context that I would use that in a conversation, but I'd like it at the ready if I ever need it.
Yeah. That sequence.
It's like the goat is like, come at me, bro. Like the possessed goat.
I mean, that is
good.
one of the more extreme shots of animal violence you will see in a movie.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
partially why that scene sticks in my head is like I was not at all in on this movie until that scene happened, and then I was like, I perked up on that. I was
Eric
like, okay.
Safford was like, "Oh yes, do tell." Well, then you get the woman hitting herself with the axe, like
The
also
axe is
very aggressive.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and the eating the kid like a bag of popcorn.
Oh well, yeah.
scene
That
later.
yeah, that's
yeah.
a little later in the movie. No, so let's talk about this dog and girl sequence because the way that scene is shot.
My actual jaw was like dropped
Well,
when that happened.
It is like one of the more effective sequences of tension because you see the dog sniffing around his clothes, which he is like very quickly been trying to take off, and he's like we gotta burn these clothes, like don't go near the clothes, and the dog is just like getting in there. So immediately you're like, okay, this dog is not great. The dog, by the way, is enormous. I mean, we've got the girl is probably 2.
It's like a Saint Bernard or something.
Yeah, it's like but the girl is like 2. There's like a 6-year-old boy, and then there's like the 10-year-old autistic boy. This 2-year-old then is sitting next to this dog who has just been rooting around, and she's sort of like playing with it and like petting its head, and I am sitting there and I'm just like, holy shit! And the way it's shot is like you're seeing the dad in the distance. And they're in the foreground. I mean, it's a really,
Honestly,
it's a really
listen,
good scene.
whatever hate I have
Everyone
this
is
movie,
screaming.
That scene is brilliant.
Yeah.
The way that it's pulled off, and not just the lead up,
It's so
but the fact
stressful.
that once the attack happens, nobody notices for like 10 seconds. They could have very easily just had everybody freak out when that happened, but to have it continue to happen while everyone else is arguing and not paying attention makes it even.
Well, and you have the little boy
Yeah.
go and check what the hell's going on. He starts freaking out, and to Matilda's point, everybody's screaming. So it's such a, it's like a terrible scene. Like you're just so stressed out anyway. Yeah, it was wild. I mean, that was truly where I was just like, nope, not doing the rest of this anymore. I got to turn this off. So
And then I think that whole
Right.
sequence,
I mean,
the whole
other-
crazy sequence ends when the car crash happened. That's bananas too. When
yeah,
Yeah, and they
Matilda.
like pull out. But I feel like other movies, this movie doesn't. It made me think about that like Hannah Gadsby special. This movie never breaks tension with laughter. Do you know what I mean? Like this movie, so many
I was
movies
laughing
with
a
this
bunch,
much
but
gore.
that was not the movie's intention. I don't think.
I think that you were watching a
I think
comedy.
I laugh when I'm shocked sometimes.
Yeah, it was pretty shocking, and so many other movies would have this level of gore and break it with laughter, and this one never does it, and it's almost unbearable. I mean, I think it's part of what's unbearable about that scene.
It's very bleak, yeah.
well, it's weird because there are times where the movie is trying to. I mean, I would argue all of the stuff with the Uriel stuff in the very beginning when they show up, and the pussing and the oozing is meant.
The
I mean,
makeup on that dude is like very.
well, it's so
The
extreme
sound
that you sort of
design.
have to laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's meant to be
Yeah.
at some level grotesquely comic, but yeah, you're right. Like none of the rest of that sequence that runs all the way through the car accident is yeah. Yeah. Well, and then, when you get after the car accident, when you get the mother returning, you have a similar moment of tension where we and the main character know what's going on, but some of the other characters don't. They and so there's a moment of like, oh fuck, like what is she gonna look like? What kind of shape is she gonna be in? It's yeah. So
Well, and that's pretty effective too when she comes back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, well, actually, one of the best. So here's another just like downer. I think for this movie is that it just doesn't look very good. I feel like we've had a few of these lately where, and someone wrote in about this, like, didn't it feel like a TV show or something?
Well, I mean, I think it was super low budget. Like, I don't think they were making this for a lot of money.
That doesn't. I don't.
I
I don't think that
understand.
precludes you from being visually creative.
Well, are you talking about like the quality of the image?
No, I'm talking about like there's nothing. Maybe there's a few exceptions, but like there is no discernible style to it, and there's not a lot of like creative blocking or like camera move. Like with the exception of, and I think I was just gonna say it's like one of my favorite scenes when he passes the woman on the road later.
Yeah.
Who's like eating the body,
Yeah.
right? And then, but the camera sort of like, he passes her, and then the camera does this like kind of cool. It sticks out because it's one of the few moments in the movie where they do that.
So I take the point, and I just think that's like I think it's a strong take, only because like, look, that scene with the goat, I think has some like they're making decisions there. I guess if you're saying like, I mean, but like that's like a pretty effectively shot scene. I think that scene with the dog is very effective. Like some of these sort of like pivotal action sequences, I think
the tension stuff is there.
Yeah, I do think you're right. Like there are some of the other places
John,
where
you ever seen The Evil Dead?
Yes.
You know
Wonderful.
that movie's style
Wonderful.
just by hearing the name, right?
Yeah.
They shot that thing for like $30,000.
No,
I'm just
sorry.
saying.
I thought you were talking more like technically, like how like the quality.
No, I just
like,
mean I miss when films had distinct styles
Yeah.
that you could feel and like.
Yeah, I mean, I like again without knowing too much about the production, like some of that is like, do you have a cinematographer? Is the director shooting this thing by himself? Like, it's again like some of that's budgetary and some of it's like just choices that get made. But yeah, I mean that's a fair. Like I actually wouldn't. I take the point. I would still say there are some like really well done scenes and shots.
Yeah,
for sure. It's not
And
that
some
orange.
of it's that it's daylight.
There's a lot of.
You know
daylight
what, John?
though.
You're right. It's not that orange. Mm-hmm. I will give it that.
I mean, it now having.
I've been seeing all these threads on Twitter lately of like young people losing their minds about like what 90s movies look like, and it's literally just they were shot on film and they had a normal color palette, and people are like losing their goddamn minds. The other day it was like the Scooby-Doo movie, and I looked at the still and I'm like, yeah, this looks amazing, because we used to be a country that knew how to shoot movies. John, why are you laughing?
If you would like us to get off of your lawn, we can. Yeah, fair enough. This is like people freaking out about 90s movies is the kind of thing like it's why I'm not on the internet for the most part. Like I just don't need it in my life. It's just like I don't know, guys.
That's why I'm here to bring it to you.
I would be curious. I mean, Eric, I know you've seen it, but Matilda, like when you check out Terrified, like it has some of the same quality to it. Like there are some scenes
Very
that are
kinda
like
similar.
yeah, there's some like real fucked up stuff that goes on. There's like some moments that are like truly, terrifying and like well done. But it ultimately, I remember, didn't like hang together.
Was that movie,
like 100%?
not to put you in the spot, was that movie also Argentinian?
Yeah. It's the same
was,
director.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was saying. Like it's the only
wasn't
other
listening
movie we've
before.
seen from him. Yeah,
It's
I know,
one other,
Eric.
yeah.
I'm aware. So, Yeah.
So that makes sense.
It's just like weird to me where I'm like, it's cool. We're watching an Argentinian horror movie. And I'm like, I've seen one other Argentinian horror movie. Let me go look at, oh, it's the same director. Like, is there like a horror scene in Argentina, but like none of the other movies make it to the US? Or is he like the only guy making Argentinian horror movies?
I guess like maybe because when it's an interesting point because I was thinking about when all that French New Wave stuff was coming out in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, and it was all we watched that.
We watched a bunch of them.
Terrible, but pretty much everything else we watched was really good. And it was like I think there was always this sense that when that stuff filtered to you, that it was like the best of the best. I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case now because there's so many more avenues for distribution. You know,
right?
And there's like there used to be an air of like mystique to it too.
Well,
like you might have found like we saw Inside at a convention with you know what I mean, like a year before it came out on DVD, and that was like a cool thing. I don't think that it has that anymore, or I'm just old.
I'm sure I've read about this some, but I'm not an expert certainly in early 2000s horror movies. But like my sense of that French sort of wave of filmmakers you're talking about is that it was like a very intentional moment of like, hey, genre stuff like this can work in the US. Like let's play to
Martyrs came out of that.
Yeah, so Martyrs, Inside, High Tension. There's like a handful of. I mean, Alexander Aja was like very
2 weeks in a row. We mentioned.
Yeah, he was like very intentional of like I want to break into Hollywood, and the way I'm going to do that.
I guess he was.
He
was involved with a lot of that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, High Tension was like the first of that sort of wave of movies. I mean, the first one that like made it really big. So. Yeah, I don't know. Like part of me is like I want to go read like how many movies get made in Argentina, period. And then how many are horror movies? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to do it while we're on the show. We can come back to it.
Well, we got a break coming up, John. So
yeah,
maybe
fair enough. There you go.
Anything else about this movie we want to?
I mean,
did we cover it all, John?
I was curious people's take about like kind of the restraining order, like a little of the backstory that we get about this guy or how we're supposed to feel. I wasn't sure how we were supposed to feel about that.
There was some, I didn't clock exactly what happened. Eric mentioned like it's kind of obliquely referenced a couple times, but then there's like a moment where one of the other brother basically says to him, it was something around like there was actually like a physical violence situation.
Right, and then later he says like that's just something the wife said to get the kids away from him. But he comes to the door and he's like, let me in my house. Like the beginning of that scene is that there's another guy in there, but he's like, let me in my house. Like there's some, even though he's estranged, there's some sense that that's where he used to be. So I couldn't also tell if that was part of the...
Well, and he hadn't been around in
suburban,
years.
rural thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that he used to be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was something...
I don't know.
John,
there's a lot going on there with that gentleman and his ex-wife. So
his self-concept,
yeah.
Would you like to know, John, how many movies were made in Argentina last year?
Sure.
In 2022, out of 433 movies released in theaters in Argentina, 224, or 51.7%, were domestic.
Interesting.
And then I couldn't find specific numbers on horror films, but it said that they're considered to be one of the big three in Latin America, like countries that have a really strong domestic cinema output. The other two, obviously, Mexico and then Brazil.
Yeah. Well, they're like the three largest probably by population, too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Professor.
I mean, I don't know, just throwing that out there. Okay.
Love it. All right. Would you
Good
recommend When Evil Lurks, Matilda?
I would.
John?
I also would, and I have. This is one of those movies I went into work today, and I was like, I know my horror peeps, and I'm going to tell them about this movie. But I am giving the like pretty strong qualifier up front that like you're going to see some shit. Because this is not, like, I wouldn't recommend this to like regular normie on the street.
Mm-mm.
Did you see Mike Flanagan started.
I sent this to you, Eric. Yes,
You
yes.
did? Okay.
Yeah.
He wrote a list of like, oh, when people tell me they don't really like horror, what's a good way to like get into the genre that's like, like not too crazy.
This was on Letterboxd. It was like a Letterboxd list.
He wrote a Letterboxd list, and it's like 10 of the most disturbing movies you've ever seen. And
Well,
he's like,
the first one is Gremlins. He's like Gremlins, and then it's like Serbian film, Cannibal Holocaust. It's a joke, obviously, but it was amusing. There's people that respond, like if you go read the comments, they're like, "These aren't good recommendations." It's like God, the internet is so useless. It just drives me crazy. So
I'm gonna, you know what, John? I'll throw a curveball and I'll say yes.
yeah, I feel like you were pretty positive. You weren't saying negative
For
things.
me,
I mean, in general,
Yeah, I would say that's an endorsement. I'm gonna hit up my top 10 list on the other side, John, but not for this.
Okay, interesting.
All right, were you gonna say something? Did I interrupt you?
No, I was going to say this movie has subtitles, and Erica's recommending, so that on the sliding scale,
Yeah.
very strong, very strong.
100%. All right, let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
The most important question of the night, John, already came in from Whitney on YouTube. Did I miss Eric talking about John's beard at all?
This is just me not
Beard
shaving
is
for a
back.
week.
A week,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well,
I
always like-
have to shave tomorrow morning.
it's
though,
always a
so-
nice opportunity to point out to potential new listeners this quirk of your facial hair that it only grows in a goatee. There's just nothing else.
There is hair here. It's just very light and
Clear?
sparse. Yeah, it's like blonde and sparse. So I also get.
It's
healthy
like I
beard.
feel like you're missing your boy band destiny if it only grows in a goatee like that.
Who's to say that couldn't still be to come for me?
Also,
I'll tell
Rachel,
you.
Rachel, of course, who's on the show from time to time, lurking in the YouTube chat, says shack people, or as we call them, people with one house. Oh, John. Joe says, apparently the evil lurking for Schnars is poor people.
Guys, you
Really, the
can't take
YouTube
this shit
chat
out of
has been
context.
hopping the last couple weeks. and I really enjoy it.
I don't need this in my life.
Okay, John, so I'm not putting this on my list, but Whitney pointed out, so we're going to talk in a second about year-end stuff coming up. In that process, Whitney pointed out that Horror in the High Desert 2 came out this year.
Yeah, I thought you didn't like it.
I didn't like it as much as the first one, but they're both great. And this is me making up for not having put the first one on my list, whatever year that came out.
I think it was like it was 21. 21. Eric, the fact that a movie has a title with Minerva in it is going to potentially be on your list. I find
right.
baffling.
Here's what I'm doing, because I don't. I'll spare you. I'm gonna leave it in the holding pen for now. I'll figure it out. But I wanted to.
No, we'll sit quietly. Go ahead. You think about it.
Well, because the next thing to get booted would be Scream 6, but I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure.
Let's go.
Like, and my 9 is totally killer, but that might go higher up on my list because I think I really like that movie.
Man, Eric, you're in my list this year are going to be really different. It's wild. I can't wait.
It's weird. It's weird. Just a lot of mediocre stuff, but all on the same level, so it's hard to know what to boot.
Yeah. I did a first pass today. I did a provisional list. So,
Okay.
very excited. I'm not telling you what it is. We're gonna
So
wait until
we send a test ballot out today. Do you want to update us on where we are, John, with the year ender?
Yeah, I mean, so we got our year-ender show is coming in, I want to say 3 weeks. No, it's 4 weeks. We're going to do it. We'll do it the last week of the year. We're going to get it out before the 1st. Yeah, we've got, right now, I've got a list of what's on the ballot. I think we're up to 66. I pinged Rachel and was like, hey, let me know if you've got any movies. She sent me like 20 movies. I was like, no one's heard of half of these. No, I mean, but I'm going to put them on. And so we're going to add those. And so, yeah, it's a long list, to your point, Eric. I do think it's going to be very interesting to kind of see how this plays. We'll be doing voting soon and sort of starting to compile the master BGH list. I have committed, I told Eric and Casey this earlier, I'm committing to a patron ballot.
Oh, yeah.
We will
Did we
handle
not
that.
do a patron ballot
I don't
year?
think I did one last year. I think for whatever reason I couldn't
we
get
have
my...
before, though.
Yeah, we have in the past. I could not get... My life was in shambles. At a
Last
certain
year was
point
like
last year,
pandemic hangover. We were still...
Yeah, there was just a lot
together, I
going
feel
on.
like.
And so, but this year, we're going to get that done. I'm going to send that
Awesome.
out via Patreon, and I'll also make sure it's posted up on Slack.
So if you want to vote on our year-end list, patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
Now is the time. Your vote will be in a separate patron ballot that will not infect or possess at any level the Bloody Good Horror Ballot. No, I'm kidding. But
What was the word?
putrescent. Yeah, exactly. I don't want any of
Putrefied.
that putrescence. No, yeah, we will be having. We'll have 2 votes this year. I'm very excited.
Love it. And then you will conduct that episode, as you do.
Like a modern Stravinsky. I think he was a conductor. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. We have one email this week, John. Who do you think it's from?
Our old buddy Caitlin?
Yes, sir. She says, I don't know if anyone ever said anything, but I finally noticed John has a double word of the day.
This, I'm
Do you
pretty
know
sure.
what this is?
Well, I know I did it at least once. I thought there might have been twice, but
John used the word cochlea for Hush, episode 375, and A Quiet
And
Place,
Quiet Place,
episode
yeah.
469. Not even 100 episodes between those two, John. What's going
I
on?
know. Look, we had way worse record keeping back in the day. We've corrected. We've course corrected.
It's true.
We're professional now. That's
True.
what Patreon has done for us.
Oh, man, I just realized Casey's near, so I got to do all the social stuff tonight.
Yeah, boy.
Did we want to say
Oh,
what
boy.
Casey thought too? Did he have a thing about
Oh.
this film?
Strong positive. He very much liked the world building for sure, but he just wrote in to say big fan. So 4 thumbs for this week.
Okay. On X, John, you remember Twitter?
No, I don't.
It's called X now.
It's just like a hate speech
It's
destination. I thought.
essentially, yes. Oh man, we missed this question last week. This is pretty good. Schnecky91. What is your limit on how many deviled eggs you can eat before you start firing off sulfur bullets? You a deviled egg guy, John?
Yeah, we talked about deviled eggs. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
I don't know what the limit is. I've
We
not
did talk about
tested
deviled eggs,
that.
but I like to be able to talk about it every week.
Yeah, I know. The deviled egg corner.
Yeah, let's see. And that's literally it.
X. Could you
It
just see if
really-
is there any like anti-Semitism that you could pull up for me while you're there? It's not funny. It's so fucking dark.
It's
so
dying
dark.
platform, John. Okay,
yeah.
Threads, John. That's the Facebook.
That's the
Twitter.
hot. Yeah, that's where it's happening.
Yeah.
That's the hot one.
Kalanat says, "Are there any other releases coming down the pipe in 2023 that you're looking forward to? If not, what about 2024?" So what do we got left here, John?
So we got Poor Things, in theaters on the 8th.
Right.
Oh, that's Emma Stone.
Your Ghost, dude.
Yorgos,
Your
yeah.
Ghost. Yes. Very excited about that. I think we are probably going to. So we have an open week next week. We were talking about what's fuck. It's a Wonderful Knife. That's what it's called. I was like, I know it's some punny title, but
So what I would say is there was one movie that came through over email today. I don't think It's a Wonderful Life is going to be like, you know.
I'm not trying to be
top
watching
10.
this Minerva situation.
No,
so
no, no, no,
don't
no.
start with me.
Let me look quick. I'm in the email. Hold on.
I mean, I have the list up here. We're down to it here. We're down to the end.
Outwaters was one that was like a real love or hate, but there was a lot of love for it. And Dark Harvest.
I mean, that was one that someone recommended, or said we missed on the list.
Yeah, so those are maybe two.
Yeah, there's a handful of things that we have in the holding pen right now.
So I would say we should boot Knife and try to flip a coin and pick one of those ones that we maybe missed.
Well, and Satanic Hispanics is the other one that's gotten it's fairly well regarded.
You made me read subtitles 2 weeks in a row, John.
I know.
Fucking Christmas.
I know. I'm sorry, bro. It's actually, you've got 4 weeks till
You're
Christmas.
not sorry. All right, so we'll figure it out. Is the answer.
Yes, but
Book
Poor
of-
Things in the theater is definitely the next big release.
Oh, I like this question. Book of Dad. If you were to find half of a body in the woods, which half would traumatize you the most? That's a good question. Because if it's the top half, the face is staring at you, and that's not great.
Well, I
But
also
it's
feel like
probably
more
real
stuff
messed up
is
to just see the
leaking out of
bottom
the top
half.
half. If you got the top half, there's going to be like viscera and stuff coming out.
I think it
of it.
depends on what happened here, John.
Yeah.
How we
Things
ended up.
happen.
Yeah.
Deviled eggs could have happened. I mean,
That's true.
I think things
Could
could
be
be
a deviled egg
leaking
smell.
from either place. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going legs. That's the better version. If you got to find one, I want the legs.
Legs? You're going legs? Okay.
Yeah. I'm going
That's
legs because
sound.
no eyes. You know, like when you
Yeah.
go to those restaurants
Ryan,
where they bring you the head on things. I don't want that. So
Ryan on YouTube
legs.
says the left half, which I like. Was not an option, but I like it.
No, that is
outside the
good.
box. One more question on Threads, and it's not even an answer, like a real question, but I just wanted to read this guy's screen name, which is Grand Old Pukers. And his question is, better lurking location, dank basement or creepy woodland shack? I don't know, dude.
A dank
But I like
basement
your name.
is just.
I think my parents' basement still scares me. Like when I'm down there.
You
Like,
got to
I'm
turn the
walk-
lights on.
To this, if I'm in a basement and I'm alone and I'm walking upstairs, I'm walking very fast. Like faster than I probably need to.
Yeah. My grandparents had one of those basements that the light was not at the top of the stairs, so you had to turn it off and then like run. Because I didn't like being in the
God, what?
basement in the dark. You know what I mean? Like it was one of
No.
those. There was a pool table down there, so that was great.
Oh my
but-
God, John. Oh, John, do you remember me showing you guys pictures of the year that my parents dressed me up as like a sad hobo clown for Halloween?
Yeah, I'm familiar
Okay.
with that picture.
Somehow, like, I'm 41. My mom sent me a bunch of Halloween pictures today and like 3 new angles on that sad clown costume that somehow I've never seen.
Wow, you got to digitize that shit, bro.
I sent it to Mark, and there's a picture of me that had me. He was a baby, so he's like in a baby thing, and I'm next to him in the costume, smiling. And my parents took a picture, and I sent it to Mark, and he was just like, "I'm showing this to my therapist." Oh man! All right, I'll send that to you after the show, Joe. Okay. Wow, Jesus Christ, we got a lot on Instagram. What the hell? Okay.
What the hell? What the hell?
No, I mean,
We got to rapid fire these, Eric. Let's go.
Oh wait, I'm mistaken. Actually, those were all for Thanksgiving.
Okay, good. How was your Thanksgiving, by the way, guys? Good? We
It
have
was
good
fine.
Thanksgiving?
It was quiet.
It's all right.
Matilda, did you travel? Were you on the road?
No, everybody's local. So I was here. We were just sick. So I was well enough to go, but my sweetie had to still be home with a cold. Yeah.
I don't understand what this question means, but Joe Ferry says, "Does John hate the B-52s because of the song? Because the song Love Shack feels beneath him?"
I love Love Shack, actually.
It's a great song.
More like a rock lobster guy, though, you know?
Yeah. All right. Plug It Up podcast. That's our friend Caitlin. She says, white or colored lights for Christmas?
I mean, colored, I think. Do you have to pick? Can't you have both?
I have both on my tree currently, but I'm going mostly color, I feel like.
Okay.
We've gone mostly white because our ornaments are so obnoxious. It's what we exchange for our wedding anniversary. Is like try to outdo each other on who can get the worst ornament for each other, so we don't want distractions.
Oh, that's nice.
When I was growing up,
good.
I think about this sometimes. My parents, I'm positive, had outdoor lights on the Christmas tree, which has to be a fire hazard. Like, they got so hot. This is, like,
No, we did too. We definitely
We did too. Yeah.
say that.
bananas.
Were there no such things maybe as indoor lights?
I remember we transitioned
certain
at one
point?
point, and they you know, it was like the much smaller ones. Maybe they were like LED. I don't think they were LED at the time. I don't fucking know, but
No, LEDs did not.
But that had,
exist
like, a
in,
thin cord.
1984. John.
yeah. But that was only in that was like mid to late '90s. We transitioned to that more, you know, a smaller, less fire causing type light.
Related from Levi, how early do you put the Christmas tree up? This movie hit me so hard, I put it up early. It's not bad.
fair.
So I kind of like the get home from Thanksgiving and go get the tree, and then sort of you decorate it across the week. Thanksgiving was very early this year. Well, like, you know, we don't get the whole, like, we get the tree up. It's like a more of a production in Manhattan. You gotta like getting
Do
the
you do real tree
yeah.
in Manhattan? That's
Well,
bananas.
dude, there is a tree guy on every other corner.
Also,
there's
where are you
like-
going to store a fake tree, I guess?
We're gonna try
Right.
to get a real tree outside the We're gonna drive out of the city because they charge. I don't even want to tell you what we paid for a tree in the city last year,
I
but
wish you would.
it was very expensive. So we're gonna drive out of the city. We're gonna get a tree. We're gonna drive it back in, but then by the time you get it up, you get the lights on. It's like you know, it's usually a 2-day process.
Fake tree, always. I think we had a real tree like 1 or 2 years growing up, but Mark was allergic to it, so it didn't work. But I'm the week before Thanksgiving, the weekend before. I feel that allows like a proper mourning period post Halloween, but I hated having to wait until after Thanksgiving as a kid, so now I want to do it before Thanksgiving specifically.
That's
And
aggressive.
I put it
That's
up.
early.
We put it up in an hour. Like, it didn't take long. I would like to point out, John, that for a good week after I put my tree up, I still had rotting pumpkins on the porch. I do that for the neighbors.
Yeah, they love that.
I
Yeah,
am
we'll get ours.
mid-December.
Oh,
Mid-December.
Mid-December. Yeah,
Wow.
late. Because
When
they
do you
dry
leave it
out.
up?
We're a real tree.
Oh, because it's real.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and like Charlie Brown sized, so they don't last all that long.
Christmas branch.
Yeah, so we do it for our anniversary, and then we exchange gifts and put the tree up. And do you have a record that you always listen to while you do the tree, or no?
No, just throw on Spotify.
Oh,
So related, but my one like Christmas tradition is I always watch Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
that is
We
the
talked about it on
best
the show
Christmas
before.
movie.
I didn't know until this year that was based on a book that came out in 1971 that I now own and have been reading to my children. And the first line of that book is Emmett Otter's father was dead. Like, the book is even more depressing than the special, which is incredible.
I actually have never seen it. Well, we might have to watch it. this
What?
year. Yeah, this
You
will be
should
the year.
watch it.
You've never seen it, John.
No, I mean we will.
A couple of years ago, they showed it in the theaters. We went and saw it in the theater.
Oh man, that's so
Did you
cool.
do that?
No, I didn't. And my kids won't watch it, so it's mostly just me by myself.
He has to wait till they go to sleep.
Yeah.
I watch it every year while I wrap presents, and I'm the only one in the house that likes it, so I put headphones in, and unfortunately, I think people have to clear out because I will sing everything.
The songs
like,
are so
you can-
good.
They're so good.
So good. So what's cool about it is essentially Henson Productions, they wanted to start making live action movies. And so Emmett Otter was basically a dry run for what ended up being The Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal. Because they were trying to see the scale that they could produce at.
I don't think either of those movies have the in them.
God
You're,
damn it,
you're just
John.
upsetting me is what's happening right now.
I think the Dark Crystal does, doesn't it?
Does it? Yeah,
Thank you.
maybe.
I think that
maybe.
one does. This one is good though
you know-
because you can see the architecture of the puppets a little bit more. They haven't quite worked that out as well as they did later. So I like
Wait,
that.
you like that makes it better? In your
Like
Oh,
on
the
the slide
walking
scene.
is the best.
Yeah, I
the
like that.
legs are just like flopping around everywhere. It's so good.
Yeah.
But they built a like quarter scale town basically to like shoot it in. It's pretty neat. That's basically the last question that's like answerable. John, are we looking forward to anything for next year?
I actually haven't taken a hard look at the upcoming slate. I mean, who the fuck knows? It's going to be kind of a mess because, we had a little strike situation, and that
Oh,
jammed
the
up a lot of
strike,
movies.
that's right.
So I have not taken a breath to look at the 2024 calendar. I don't know, Matilda. Is there anything is coming for sure?
I mean, Maxine's coming. That got pushed.
Oh,
And then
yes.
Oh,
there's a
yes.
movie called Night Bitch that's based on a book that's pretty great. And
Sure.
I'm very much
The
looking
Night
forward to
Bitch?
that.
I feel
They
like I've
gotta
heard
give it a
Night
different
Bitch.
title. There's no way they're releasing it.
They
with that
absolutely
Same
should
as
not
the
give it a
book.
different title.
title. Wow, Night Bitch.
I hope it has a
Holy
really
shit.
awesome theme song that I can sing.
Yeah, that would be fun.
One final note, John. People are starting to send us their Spotify raps. And also, I guess Pocket Cast is doing this, and I think the Apple Podcast app is as well. And just a shout out to everyone that's kind of been. If you tag us, we will share it if we're in your top 5.
And if we're not, you better get your act together next year.
Well, that goes without saying.
How dare you? Yeah, no, it's cool.
Love it.
I haven't looked at mine yet. I'm save that for the weekend. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about mine.
Yeah.
All right, what's next week? don't know
TBD.
TBD.
We got a TBD,
I love it.
but we'll know soon. We'll announce as soon as possible.
All right, that's gonna do it for When Evil Lurks. Hope you enjoy the show, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye.